Hey there, welcome to another episode of How to Fight in Arena. Today we're going to be talking about when to take fights and kind of how to start the fights. We're going to be looking at early game, mid game, and late game, so we're going to be covering a lot. Let's get it. So first we're going to be talking about early game fights. The goal in an early game fight is to end it as fast as possible. I made a video about how to master a drop spot, and once you master it, it becomes a lot easier to fight at the start of the game. Usually in my games, as soon as I get a shotgun and a good amount of mats, maybe some shield, I start pushing. That's the general explanation, but if you're struggling in early game, I'd recommend you to watch the video. It's called How to Improve in Arena Part 4, Mastering a Drop Spot. So after I win my drop spot, I usually don't leave to find more fights until I have upgraded my shotgun to blue or purple, have full health with a little extra heals. Once I have all this and a good amount of mats, I start pushing basically everything I can find. And that leads us into mid-game fights. So after I've won my drop spot and I'm healthy, I begin to push towards nearby POIs. I'm going to describe how I'm able to find people fast and sneak up on them to get the first tags. So once I get looted up and leave my drop spot, I look at where the zone is closing. I begin moving towards a POI close to zone, and I try to predict players' rotations out of the points of interest, POIs. The way I do this is by looking at where the zone is and figuring out which way the players would need to rotate out of their POI to get to zone. If you can figure out where people are rotating, you can get shots on them to start a fight with a health advantage. Pay attention to the map and try to start predicting people's rotations. Once you do this enough, you'll be able to know where people are 90% of the time, giving you a big advantage. And if you keep this in mind, you can start to know where you're at risk of being third-partied from. Like if you know people are going to be rotating from Misty to Lazy because the zone is pulling them that way, then you can keep an eye in that direction to watch for a third party. But yeah, with mid-game fights, I usually just travel around the map trying to find players roaming around, and I am especially looking for players that are fighting. Third parties are the key to high kill games because it's so easy to jump into a fight and third party it fast. On top of that, you get 2 more full loadouts and 2 free kills. A lot of times when third partying, there will be another third party waiting to jump in once the fight is finished, so make sure you're being aware of other people joining into the fight. The most important thing with mid-game fights is to be aware of third parties. Before hopping into fights in mid-game, you gotta pay attention to how far away the zone is, obviously. Like, you don't wanna take a fight if you're on edge of zone and it's pulling all the way across the map. Because the main thing about taking mid-game fights is you wanna leave the fight healthy. And if you end the fight and you're way deep in storm, obviously you're not leaving that fight healthy because you're gonna be traveling in the storm. The way I avoid getting third-partied is by 1, ending fights as fast as possible, by getting tags to start the fight and then psychoing in. Another way I avoid third parties is by making sure I am covered on all sides while pushing someone's box. That way if a third party does approach, they will not be able to get free shots on me, instead they'll have to break my wall before getting any shots on me, and that gives you time to react. Another way to avoid third parties is anytime you are healing and there is a short break in the fight, just take a quick peek around to check if people are approaching. But make sure you're mainly focused on the guy you're fighting, obviously, but you can take a second or two to scan the area. Alright, now let's talk a little bit about late game. I'm not going to go into too much detail about late game just because, depending on how many people are alive, you have to play it differently. But fighting in late game in Arena, typically there's like 10 to 20 people alive, so it's not too hard to keep fighting. However, if there's a lot of people boxed up nearby you, you might get lobby focused if you try pushing someone. So you gotta be cautious about that. One thing I can say, in endgame Arena, you should try to note where everyone is. Usually there aren't very many people alive, so you can try to find each person on the map, or at least most of them, and protect yourself from those angles if you do choose to take a fight. That way you don't really have to worry about getting lobby focused as much, and you can try to take fights still. Definitely when you do approach somebody's box, you need to build walls all around you just in case someone starts spraying at you. But here, I'm gonna play an endgame or two of me fighting in late game so you can see how I approach fighting in endgame Arena. Alright guys, let's check out these endgames. For the most part, I'm just going to play out the clips, but I'll try to add voiceovers any point that I can. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Leave a like and comment if you haven't already. Let me know what you want to see in the future. But let's check out these endgames. So this is kind of early late game. I'm only going to put this one fight from early late game in here, and we're going to skip to the late game. But I figured I'd include this just so you can see how I take these fights. As you can see at this point in the game, I'm playing it pretty safe. I'm blocking off all angles, and like while I'm pushing, I'm just scanning the area, trying to make sure I'm safe to fight this. Oh shoot, that was a close one. And now at this point in the game, there's only 2 other players, so I'm trying to find out where each of them is and trying to figure out how I can attack one without getting sprayed by the other in the safest way possible. So I see we're going by this building, so I won't be able to get sprayed through the building very easily. So this is probably a good time to strike. Took a while to take that guy out, but now it's just a 1v1, and you just gotta do your thing, play confident. I like to picture myself in Zone Wars, just a 1v1 in Zone Wars, done it a million times, not too hard to do again. At this point, I know he's not going to let me heal, so I'm trying to keep some pressure on him, maybe get a few tags, and then I'll be able to pop some heals once he gives me some space, you know? It's like in my other videos when I talk about fighting, talking about smart defensive fighting. This is kind of the same thing. Let's go, dude. So right now I'm just hard pushing box to box using the bouncers as movement. So as you can see now, it's a little bit more congested, and I gotta protect myself more from third parties. So as I'm pushing up to this guy's box, I'm looking at the directions I need to be protected from, and making sure I'm protected from them as I start to break his wall. And bop. Oh, hit marker, dang. jeez. Yes, dude. He distracted him for me. I win this game. No way. Oh. I got pumped from above for like 190.